Welcome to Talkin' Jets. My name's Ryan and I'll be your pilot tonight. I am joined alongside our panel. I got Matt O'Leary to my... Which way is this? No, that's Green Bean. That's Matt O'Leary. Thank you guys for tuning in. It's been fun. It's been a long time since we did this, and I'm looking forward to getting back and talking some Jets with you guys tonight. Matt, how you been?
Pretty good, man. I missed you guys. It's been a while, but stayed in the quarantine here on Long Island. Worked from home the last few months and just tried to put out as many videos as possible, but missed you guys.
Green Bean, how you doing traveling around the country?
Yeah, O'Leary did a good job keeping me afloat, man, with all his videos and podcasts and everything. He's keeping me going, man. But yeah, I'm in Rosebud, Missouri, if you can believe that right now. So we're just driving around. I'm heading west, and I'm psyched about a lot of things going on in the Jets world. I'm ready to chat, man. I missed you guys too.
Hey, it sounds like you are always in a state of misery being a Jet fan, but you are actually in the state of misery now. So
I like
bad
this.
joke. Yeah, it's stupid.
Not the count. That's good.
Well done.
All right, so we got a bunch of stuff to talk about. Most obviously, the impact of the Jamal Adams trade. That is easily going to be the hot topic tonight. Guys, we're going to do this the same way we have in the past. We're going to give our commentary. I think we'll probably wind up doing phone calls maybe around 9 o'clock rather than 8 o'clock, or 8:30. So we'll kind of get you guys in there. Cade and Elvis, thank you for tuning in. Cabir, Andy, Bronco Fanatic, Zachary, Joe, Steven, Mike, Andy, Ed. I'm going to run out of names here. Just Jets is in there. Joseph G, Matt Curtis, David, Scottish Jets fan. Thank you guys for tuning in and hanging out with us tonight. This is going to be our regularly scheduled time moving forward. If you have not subbed up to Matt and Green Bean, did I do that right? Yeah, Matt and Green Bean. Okay. I'm trying to figure out which direction the camera's pointing here. Their links are in the description down below, so make sure you sub them up. Guys, we have had some huge news with Jamal Adams, and I know it's something we've wanted to talk about for a while. Our group chat was kind of blowing up with it. Let's talk about the trade compensation. The Jets traded Jamal Adams and a 4th-round pick in 2022 and got 2 first-round picks and a 3rd-round pick and Bradley McDougald. Matt, what were your thoughts on the trade overall?
I was stunned with the value when it went through. I got a text from my cousin who's a Jets fan, and he was like, I can't believe we traded him. Let's see what we got. And I was like, They did it. They pulled the trigger, and then I was refresh, and Adam Schefter, his tweet came up, and when I saw the Jamal Adams and a 4th-round pick, I was assuming that the Jets were getting a 4th-round pick and like a player back, just because of the story that came out the day prior. But no. The Jets gave up Jamal and a 4th, got 2 first-rounders, a 3rd-rounder, and a pretty solid safety too. I absolutely love the move. I think Joe Douglas did a phenomenal job with the trade. I could not have asked for better compensation. It was much more than I thought we were going to get for Jamal Adams.
Green Bean, how you feeling about the trade?
Yeah, I love it too. It's so funny to hear Matt say that because I was driving through Ohio at the time, and I got a text from a Giants friend of mine, actually my brother-in-law, and he literally texted, "So you got rid of your Odell, huh?" And I just said to my wife, "Google Jamal Adams trade right now." And she did, and she said, Jamal Adams and a 4th-round pick. And I started looking at her like, what? She's like, whoa, calm down, dude. I'm reading the headline, you know? So, but then, like Matt said, we opened it up, and then we saw Jamal and a 4th-round pick. I think, look, they're in win-now mode. That's great. I get it. But there is no way in hell that a strong safety is worth two first-round picks and a 3rd-round pick and a starting safety. It doesn't equate. Now, I've seen people balance all the draft, value charts and everything, and there is some logic behind it numerically. Numbers aside, this is 2 first-round picks, man. Okay, we don't know where they're going to be. There's no way in hell that we should have garnered this much for him. And I think Joe Douglas is a real GM. I love him. I trust him. I could not be happier.
Yeah, I fall right in line with that. I was floored. The day before this trade happened, I made a video. I was like, there's no way I would give up a 1st-round pick for Jamal given everything that's gone on. Not a chance in hell. So when I saw at least one, I was like, all right, cool. I was like, oh my God, there's a second one. Because I think the way it was worded on the thing I saw was like, 2021 1st-round pick, and then it was 3rd-round pick. I was like, all right, 1st or 3rd. And then I'm scrolling down, it's like 1st-round pick in 2022. I was like, Oh, damn. Let's go. And then I had no idea who the safety was. I'll be honest. I had to do a little research on that. And hey, it seems like he's pretty legit, like an above average safety. I actually have, let me see. I had some numbers here from, I believe this was Michael Nania that posted this. So Bradley McDougall has an 88.7 career passer rating allowed. The NFL average in 2019 was 93.7, so he's above average there. Touchdowns allowed every snap, 273.6 snaps in coverage every time he allows a touchdown. The NFL average is 224.5, so he's above average there. 40 passes defended since 2014. That is 14th most among safeties. So, granted, that's a little bit longer of a sample size, but I think even if we can get 80% of what Jamal Adams was for this, because you got to think, us along with getting the 2 first-round picks, the third-round pick, and just a player, we're saving probably about $10 million. If you're thinking Jamal's getting $17 or $10 million and Bradley's getting $5 million plus the money we're going to have to spend on the actual draft picks themselves, we're saving a bunch of money. We're getting a lot of cheap options here, and it's going to create a ton of fun for next offseason and the offseason after that. I can't wait.
Absolutely, man. It's going to be so sick. Just think about the amount of high-end picks. So, yeah, that's what, 6 picks in the first 2 rounds over the next 2 years? That I'm oozing at the mouth to see what Joe Douglas could do with that.
It's exciting. I mean, this year we got the offensive lineman. We got the wide receiver. I'm really high on us bringing in Juju after the season because he's going to be a free agent wide receiver. So let's say we get him. Him and Sam played together at USC, obviously. Now you have these 2 first-round picks that you can kind of wheel and deal. You can trade down, try to get some more shots. The biggest thing for this that I can really look at and be concerned about is that we're not going to have a college football season. I'm pretty sure of it. So we're going to be grading guys and drafting guys based on only 2 years of play and a year removed. Because I was talking to Chris last night, and he was saying, the entertainer, he goes, Gross Matos was considered a top 5 pick at one point, like this time last year, wound up going in, I think it was the 2nd round. So there's so much volatility between the beginning of the season to the end of the season, and now just to not have it at all. It's going to create a really interesting dynamic in the draft. And the Jets aren't the only ones that are going to have to deal with it, but it does concern me that this first-round pick may not be as valuable as it otherwise would be.
Unless your GM is a legitimate scout. They already know what they like. I mean, look, obviously the college season is important. I'm not trying to say that, but they already have their data on a lot of these guys. And Joe Douglas is a legitimate college scout. He knows what he's looking for. He knows what what he likes. So I think, if we had the likes of a McCagnon or even a Tannenbaum or a Brad, these guys, they weren't scouts, man. They just kind of went with the whims and the waves of how things were going. Joe Douglas, on the other hand, I actually feel that if it boils down that way, we are actually at an advantage compared to a lot of other clubs because everybody's on the same playing field there. It's not just us, right? So everybody's at that disadvantage. That actually elevates us because of who we have as a GM. It's weird saying this stuff. I want you to know that I just got a weird feeling. I'm this confident in our organization. It's bizarre, but I do feel that way.
Yeah, I have to agree with Greenbean, man. If Mike McCagnon was still in charge, I'm probably not feeling the way I am about this trade. But with Joe Douglas and what he did in this past draft, and even just the swings that he took, as in his short tenure as the Jets GM, the only one you could really say that didn't work was Ryan Khalil, but that wasn't something that completely derailed the franchise. It was a reasonable swing that just didn't work out. And I just have a ton of respect for what he's done so far. And on top of that, faith. I believe in this guy, and I think he's proven, like Greenbean said, that he's the real deal, and he should be able to completely rebuild this team with those 2 picks.
Yeah, I do agree with that. I think he has shown way more in the draft process than we have seen out of a GM in a very, very long time. Probably going back to Mangold and DeBrickashaw draft. That's kind of how far back we're going. Which I saw another tweet. I saw someone talking about this with the Jets have drafted 3 all-star, Hall of Fame caliber players in John Abraham, Darrelle Revis, and Jamal Adams. And they've traded all 3 of them away. And my response to that was well, We trade away John Abraham for a Hall of Fame center. That's basically what we got with Mangold. Then you trade away Darrelle Revis. One of those the pick that we got for Revis turned into Sheldon Richardson. Sheldon Richardson was traded for a second, which wound up giving us the ammo to get Sam Darnold. Now we get Jamal Adams. We trade him away for 2 first-round picks, the third-round pick, and the player. And I'm just really excited to see how this impacts our team moving forward, because this is absolutely huge. You're adding 4 guys in 2 years on 5-year cheap contracts. And I think it's absolutely fantastic, especially in a time where you're going to eventually have to pay Sam, and those valuable contracts are going to be huge.
Yeah, something that I said, it was half tongue-in-cheek, but half true at the same time. The last time the Jets had a competent drafter, in my eyes, is Eric Mangini, and they went into the 2006 draft with 2 first-round picks, and they came away with DeBrickashaw, Ferguson, and Nick Mangold, and that completely changed the trajectory of the Jets franchise over the next few years. And that foundation from that draft, the 06 draft, really was part of the reason why they were so successful in 2009 and 2010. So that's what we're hoping for. It was what we're getting from Joe Douglas over the next couple of years.
Yeah, man. And like, think about it. That wasn't just a few years too. That was a decade that, DeBrickashaw, Ferguson, and Mangold, what is it? I think he was 11 or 12 years, right? But Brick was 10 years. That was a solid decade that we literally didn't worry about our left tackle and our center. These guys, DeBrickashaw, Ferguson, just correct me. Did he never miss one play in his whole career, or was it one play or something?
One snap.
You guys remember? One snap.
Yeah, it was one snap.
So that's the kind of thing. When you have a guy who actually knows what they're looking for and is evaluating talent, and just like that was Eric Mangini's first year. His first year coming in, he drafts a center, a left tackle, and a quarterback in the second round in Kellen Clemens. He didn't end up being anything, but he was our steady backup quarterback for 5 or 6 years there. So that when somebody who's running the draft comes in and goes offensive line, and just like you said, has more ammo, that's the guy you want running your team, at least as far as player acquisition is concerned. And I think Joe Douglas is absolutely the guy to get us the guys that we need to actually make this team worth a shit. Because look, man, for years, we traded away our best players and all that kind of stuff, and we would give terrible free agent contracts to guys who would come here, use it as a place to get money and never work out for us. But those were guys who never should have been a GM. And now you even go back to Tannenbaum. Tannenbaum did some good things, but that was on the back of Mangini, but he did do some good things. But he was an accountant, okay? Idzik, he's an accountant. Mike McCagnon was about to get fired from the Texans, and we grabbed him because of what's his name's friendship with him. I forget his name. But Joe Douglas was next man up. If we didn't grab him midseason, he was going to be the guy that all those teams were going for to try to court to their team to be the GM. We finally got an actual football guy, a talent. He's not Italian.
Wait a second.
Yeah, Joe Douglas, the paisan. But that's the thing. Like, this guy, he's the guy you want to have. 2 first-round picks in the next 2 years. And don't forget the 2/3 and the 2/5 this year in 2021. 2 firsts, 2/3, 2/5. Man, that's the guy you want having.
Yeah, especially if he starts wheeling and dealing and maybe he starts trading down a little bit. Because if the Jets wind up getting, say, a top, 12 pick, maybe, say we pick around the same spot we picked this past year, I could see him moving down and just accumulating more picks. Like, I don't think he necessarily needs a top pick. Like, I think our targets for this next draft are probably going to be pass rusher, cornerback, possibly wide receiver, depending on, what happens with free agency. I mean, I guess you'll see more offensive line as well. And I just think he'll try to go with the quantity over maybe quality this year coming up. It's going to be fascinating to watch. Vinay 777, thank you for the super chat. He says, the Jets aren't having any games, but my dad knows one of the players' agents, and we might be able to go sideline to games. Ooh, that I don't buy that for a second. I don't think they're going to allow anyone on the sidelines for games outside of the players and coaches. That's my guess. What do you guys think?
No, not this year, unfortunately.
Yeah, I'm going to be real honest. I didn't hear it, what you said.
So So Vinny's saying that his dad knows one of the players' agents, and we might be able to go sideline to the games. So maybe that's just him. Maybe that's what he's talking about, just the individual person. I don't think they're going to allow like almost anyone extra on the sidelines at all.
Yeah, look, man. Keep the hope alive, man. Ain't nothing wrong with it, but I don't think I wouldn't hold my breath. Well, hey, man, hope. Why not? I don't see it.
So, in your opinion, guys, what would you like to see done with these picks? Do you want to see them traded? Are there certain positions you would like to see us target, maybe based on like the value of the position itself? Because like I have no idea what the top 100 draft, prospects look like or anything like that. But like if you had to sort of replace what we get rid of Jamal, what do you want to see in its place? Green Bean, I'll kick it to you first.
Hoping that we use the top pick for a strong safety. How does that sound?
I'm cutting you in a little bit.
No.
I tried to get. I lost it. I didn't hear I heard it was a joke, but I didn't hear what the joke was. Say it one more time.
I love saying jokes twice. It's the best. I said what I'm really hoping they do with the top pick is grab a strong safety with the top.
Oh God.
So it would have been funnier the first time, I assure you.
Yeah, there was a delay there.
I think that the wide receiver group could still use more help, and I think it's clear to me we've left a hole at edge rusher. Sure, we got Zuniga. Sure, we took a flyer on an undrafted free agent. But even with Jordan Jenkins, who's not a real rusher, by the way, gave him a 1-year contract. Joe Douglas left that void, and he's going to fill it next year. And I think that's probably what we're going to see is some edge and some wide receivers at the top of the draft.
I'll just real quick before I jump over to Matt. Vinay says we talked to the agent. He said he's allowed to bring 5 people. So probably that one agent maybe is allowed to bring 5 people. That's interesting, real interesting. Okay, Matt, what do you think about the picks, and where do you think we should kind of go with them?
Yeah, it's definitely tough to say because we haven't looked at free agency yet, and it depends on who they add there, obviously. But just looking at how the roster is right now, edge is definitely very high up on the list. Potentially corner as well, depending on if Bless on Austin takes that next step in development, or maybe like what you see from Bryce Hall or Arthur Mollett, but potentially corner. Definitely wide receiver. I think you're going to have to add some more bodies there. And offensive line, I think they're going to continue to hammer out. I don't think you really have any long-term options at either guard position. And I'm not really all that confident in the right tackle. I think you're pretty set at center and left tackle, but I think they'll continue to look to add to the amount of bodies on the offensive line as well.
Now in our group chat, Green Bean was the one that brought it up, the trading possibly a first or maybe a conditional pick or something like that for Yannick Ngakoue. That would be, in a draft that could be a little more up in the air, I would be okay with bringing in a high-priced player. So I kind of lean more towards bringing in Juju Smith-Schuster or like a Yannick Ngakoue, just because if we say we draft a wide receiver in the first round, now it's maybe a little premature, but you're thinking, okay, Mims and first-round wide receiver both going to need contracts at the same exact year. I think that's how that would work, right? 1, 2, 3, 4. No, that math is hard. Sorry, that is totally wrong. That is blatantly wrong. 5-year contract versus 4-year contract, 1 year in. I'm an idiot. I would prefer maybe if we're spending some money. Although who knows if the cap goes down? They're talking about the cap could go down as low as $175 million over the course of the next 5 years. That's the lowest it can go down. They're saying we could lose as much as $60 million. I guess from each team, and then they'll just divvy it up over the course of a few years. Now, I guess one of the things we could bring up is, I don't know if you guys have been following it, there's been a lot of players starting to opt out for the season. The Patriots, most notably, have 6, one of them being Dante Hightower and Patrick Chung. So it's fascinating to see. I think we've had 1 Jet player opt out right now, and then we've had, I think, 2 that have gone into the COVID protocol where they're out for 2 weeks, one being Bryce Hall, the other, I'm losing the name. I'm not too sure.
I don't remember off the top of my head who it was, but Hall was the biggest name of the bunch.
Now, what do you guys?
Sorry, it was. I forget it. Go on. I was trying to remember his name out loud.
That's all right. What do you think? How does this impact the Patriots? How does it impact, I guess, the rest of the teams in the league? What do the players kind of do? It's an interesting situation because what happens if they opt out? There's two ways you can opt out. You can opt out medically, or you can just opt out. If you opt out just regularly, it's $150,000 stipend. Your contract tolls for the next year. If you're medical, it's $350,000 stipend, and your contract tolls the next year. So, forgive me, I don't know the name. The defensive tackle that the Vikings signed this offseason decided to opt out due to medical reasons, and he was like a $9 million a year guy. He was like their prize jewel that they got in free agency. Are we going to see more big name players possibly opt out? There's guys that we were talking just before. What happens if Russell Wilson, who just had a child, decides he wants to opt out for the safety of his son or daughter or whatever, and now all of a sudden the Jets get a great first-round pick for the Jamal Adams trade?
What happened?
Could happen.
But
who knows?
It really is an interesting thought, though. I mean, I didn't even think of that. And it's like, without Russell Wilson, I really don't see the Seahawks as that terrifying. The rest of the team, they have lots of talent, but Russell Wilson is the jewel of that team, obviously. If he decides to opt out and we still have a season, I'm telling you, the draft pick is going to improve. And that really makes things interesting from my perspective. I have a lot to think about and flesh out here in my thoughts. It's exciting.
Definitely, I think we are going to see more guys opt out as it gets closer and closer. And it's tough to blame them. Football is going to be extremely difficult to get through a season. I kind of understand baseball because you can reasonably socially distance in baseball. Football is going to be really difficult to get through. So I couldn't blame anybody if they opted out this year.
Right.
So I'm going to butcher this name, but Jamie mentioned in the chat that the where did it go? He said the name of the other player that hit, and it was oh god, who is the player? Hold on, I'll find it. It's in the chat somewhere. I literally just saw it. It was Jamie. I'm gonna find it. It's in there because I had a nice little joke I was gonna run off with it. Now I don't friggin' remember it. The guy's last name looks like Kulak Kaliki Maka. I was just like, oh, whatever. Okay. 2613 Mike, thank you so much for the super chat. He says, what do you think about both our safeties being free agents in their late 20s next year? Do you re-sign May now? I don't. I don't really do anything right now. I do want to re-sign May. That would be the ultimate goal. In a normal season, yes, I would re-sign him, partway through the season. He's playing well. I really want to bring him back now that Jamal's not in the fold because we have a solid, I think he's 27. I think we have probably another 3 good years that we could get out of him. What do you guys think with May? What would you guys do? Matt, I'll kick it to you first.
Yeah, I definitely want to sign him. I don't know if I'll sign him to an extension right now, but I definitely want him back as the long-term option at safety. I don't think you're re-signing McDougal. I think because he's 29, so you'll probably have him play the 1 year and then let him hit free agency at 30 and roll with Marcus May and Ashton Davis at safety, which I'm completely fine with. I think that's more than capable at your safety position. But for me, I think you kind of, like you said, you let the season play out. If he's playing well, give him the extension then. If, he continues the season and for whatever reason the Jets don't feel like they can offer him a contract extension during the year, then wait till after the year and get something done.
That's exactly what I think. Really, it's like I don't see any reason to do anything right now. I think right now is the time to just kind of, with your own players and everything. It's just time to see how the landscape's going to look. I would be really concerned if they do drop the salary cap to 175. What does that do if you have guaranteed contracts with guys and you're over the cap limit? I mean, I don't even know how they would address that. I really don't. But one thing I can say is I wouldn't be in a hurry to add right now, knowing that there's a really good chance that's going to happen. Now, it's nice that the NFL put that floor there for 175 because there was talk of like 140 and all that kind of stuff. So that's nice. At the same time, that's still significantly lower than the cap was expecting to be. It was going to go up $10 million or $15 million this year. So yeah, I would chill out. That said, I love May. I think I thought we were going to lose May when we had to keep what's his name? I swear to God that was real. Jamal Adams.
Jamal Content. Jamal Content. Is that what his name was?
Right. I completely fried out. That's good. I like that. I feel that feels good to me. But yeah, if we were going to keep Jamal Adams, I thought we were going to lose May. And I like May. I think he's a good player. The health concerns, which were legitimate, by the way, they did a good job bringing him in really slow. Remember that during training camp, they had him over on the side by himself, running drills. All that. They brought him in well. They got they got him to play all year. He had a really solid year, if unspectacular. And I think he's a great player to have. And like many Jets players have come out, they said he's the guy really running the Jets secondary. He's out there. He's the one really putting it all together. So he's a very intelligent guy, great player. Do you ever see or hear anything negative about this guy? So he's the kind of guy Joe Douglas and this organization likes. I think May is the kind of guy that you keep. He's a little older, than his draft year would lead you to think. I think he's 27 maybe now, something like that. Yeah, I think that you give him a second contract and see where it goes, but I would wait.
Yeah, the biggest thing for me is that you just don't know what's going on with the salary cap, and it's a weird reason why I think we probably won't be bringing in any more free agents right now. I think they're going to wait and sort of see how it goes. Like, I think Clowney's going to get screwed. As much as there's been a lot of hype around the Jets possibly bringing him in because there's the Bradley McDougal kind of connection there and him trying to recruit him. I don't see it happening because you're going to have to pay him. Let's even say it's $13 million, $14 million. That is a lot of money to give towards a player, and we play say 1 week of play, and now that money's gone. I don't see it working that way. I mean, perhaps there's a way where you can, maybe it's contingent on how many games you play. Maybe you can sign that type of contract at this point in the season. But man, it would be a world of hurt if you sign someone of a high caliber and a high price, and then you just lose that money for the year. Matt, what do you think about Jadeveon Clowney and that whole potential situation?
I'm glad you asked. I did a video on that today. So
I'm not just saw it.
Perfect. I'm not a fan. I think it would be a mistake. And the reason for that is when you look at what the Jets need on the defensive side of the ball, outside of maybe you could argue corner help, edge is a big idea. So you see the name Jadeveon Clowney, you think, okay, great, plug him in. Well, he's more of a run stopper than he is as someone who would get after the passer. He had 3 sacks last year. His career high in sacks is 9.5. He's never hit double digits. He's also a walking penalty. He has led the league in penalties the last 2 years for players who aren't offensive linemen, and potential dirty player with Carson Wentz and Baker Mayfield hits last year. I just don't see the fit. I don't think it makes sense for the Jets. I really don't.
Green Bean, what about you?
Nah. Number one, I agree. I never wanted Clowney. I think Clowney is as overrated as they get. He's a solid ball player, but he's not what people think that he is when they want him. They think they're getting this prolific pass rusher. He's not that, man. And he never broached double digits with J.J. Watt next to him, man. Okay, so, he's not the guy coming in and changing much, but what if you're able to get him for one of those Jordan Jenkins-y pool $5 million a year kind of things? I would probably consider that. See if he can come in and try to earn this contract that he wants and isn't getting. I would consider that. That said, it's a fun idea, but I would probably, outside of a $4 or $5 million kind of just, out of the blue kind of a contract, I wouldn't even be considering him. I would like Ngakoue, though. I would.
I would. The issue I have with Ngakoue, and it's the only issue I have with him, is that he's on the franchise tag right now, and you cannot negotiate a long-term deal with him until after the season. So you're running the risk of trading a potential high pick for a player that you're either going to have to franchise tag or try to negotiate a deal prior to him hitting free agency. You're probably letting him test the market. So for a 1-year type I don't want to say stopgap, but a 1-year potential rental, I mean, it's got to be like a third-round pick maybe that could be a conditional pick that gets higher. That would be the only way I would probably make that trade at this point.
I think that's fair.
Yeah.
Totally.
Well, he wants 20. Didn't he say that he wants 20? Isn't that the issue?
Yeah, I'm not so
Right.
concerned with the 20. Like it's a lot for sure. Edge rusher is the one position that I'd probably justify trying to do that with. But again, it's one of those things that, like, if we can't re-sign him until after the year, it's like, okay, well, are we going to franchise tag him, which is going to be like $26 million next year? Or are we going to try and, like, I mean, I guess you probably tag him at that point and then you just try to work out a long-term deal that doesn't have that cap hit. But then he's kind of got you by the balls. He's like, maybe I'll play on the 1 year tag. It's like, oh, damn it. This is not,
Which is what Jamal's going to do in Seattle, by the way. I don't know if you guys. He's not signing an extension with Seattle. It's not happening.
I don't think he is either.
Nope, ain't happening, man. That's why he's dancing, because he knew the Jets were the ones that were going to kick the shit out of him. Pardon my French. And Pete Carroll's not going to do that, and he's going to end up. He thinks he's going to Dallas. That's what he thinks. It's just sort of one step closer, but he's not going to sign with them. And that's what. That's there's a whole. That's the problem with Yannick. It sucks.
See, they have that little thing with Jamal. What's going to happen is he's got 2 more years left on his deal. They're probably not going to franchise tag him. I wouldn't think, at least. And then what does that look like for the Cowboys? Who's possibly up? Dak may not be there. You got Amari Cooper may not be there because his guaranteed money basically runs out after this year. So that even though he just signed a huge deal, you could cut him after the season. So it's interesting to kind of see the pieces that could be in motion down the road, a year or 2 years down the road, because he'll only be 26 years old when he hits free agency. So it's interesting to kind of see that. I don't know. What do you think, Matt? Do you think Jamal stays a Seahawk long term?
I don't know. You would assume that if you give up 2 first-round picks, you want to sign him long-term. But everything the Seahawks tend to do is they don't like to give those extensions to guys that aren't Russell Wilson.
I'm sorry. I really wanted to respond to that, but I saw the super chat that popped up, and I have to say it. Matt looks like the real-life version of James and the Giant Peach character. Just kidding, you man, Matt. Both you guys need to grow beards like Green Bean. Much love.
I can't grow that kind of facial hair, man. It's too patchy.
I can get the thick right here, but I get not so much hair right here. That's where it falls me.
I know. Look at this thing, man. Who the fuck? I was just telling Ryan this morning. It was like this. I looked like Grizzly Adams. I had to I couldn't deal with it. I haven't gotten a hair. I don't know what's happening.
He's a mad scientist over there.
Who is this guy?
That is fantastic.
Ronnie.
Oh, man. So what do you guys think about I guess we'll talk about some of the comments that came out today. Training camp starts today. We're starting to hear a few more interviews. We had an interview with Douglas. I believe it was it yesterday or today? And Gase was today. Basically, Douglas came out and said, I never promised Jamal a contract back in January. That wasn't, that never happened. He did what he thought was best for the team. They've been talking to Seattle for a while. And he's like, the Manish Mehta article is not what, pulled the trigger, which that's a blatant lie, but that's okay. I liked what I heard from Joe Douglas. It was GM speak. You didn't really get anything from him. The more interesting thing for me was the Adam Gase kind of comments that he made today, and basically in the face of kind of getting ripped apart by Jamal and kind of dragged through the mud, Gase for the most part took the high road. I was pretty surprised with how he kind of handled it. He didn't take too many shots. Green Bean, I know you had one thing that you thought was a little bit of a jab in there.
Yeah. So Adam Gase really said, the New York press is trying to get him to say anything that they are. And all he did was say, well, look, I addressed the team every game at halftime. Jamal Adams is probably referring to the 2 times that he didn't hear me. Once was when he was in the training room, and the other time was when he didn't play against the Ravens. So I took that as an underhanded little, hey, man, we're playing the Ravens and not to play. You know what I mean? So I thought it was good. Am I back?
Back.
You're back. It was like you had a little cut. I heard it. I like caught the bits and pieces. It all made sense to me. The whole,
Let me just tell everybody. So just so everybody knows, I am literally in the woods of Missouri. I drove around for 2 hours today trying to find a strong enough internet connection. I am right now in an adult recreation center. Okay? And there's no other adults here, thankfully. They wouldn't have let me in if there were. But so that's what I'm really trying for you guys. I promise. So I do apologize if it gets spotty at times. I think I'm doing pretty good, but I am sorry.
oh no, you sound fine. It's just to see that big old white Santa beard is enough for me. He didn't have to say a word. It was like the draft again. We had the draft day 2 and day 3. We had the picture of Green Bean modeling the jacket.
Yeah. What a
That's so great.
Oh, it was fantastic. Now, in terms of some other comments, it was interesting. I saw a few tweets of people talking about how weird it was that we didn't see any support for Jamal from the players in the locker room. Like, you heard little things like maybe commenting on some of Jamal's things like, hey, wish you the best of luck, like all that sort of stuff. But there wasn't anything like, oh, man, we really lost a star player or all, this, that, or the other thing. Instead, you got Le'Veon Bell taking shots. And I love me some Le'Veon Bell. Like, I saw Matt post it, Team Bell, 110%. Very high on this guy as the leader of the locker room. And I'm hoping that this Jamal Adams trade kind of galvanizes the locker room, because what it sounds like, Jamal didn't have a ton of fans in that locker room. They respected his play on the field, but I think they kind of rubbed guys the wrong way, because apparently at the trade deadline, there were rumors that he was talking to other Dallas Cowboy players to try and convince the Dallas Cowboys brass to go make a trade for him, and it got out in the locker room, and that's kind of where you saw some of the butting of heads towards the end of the season.
Yeah, definitely. I think that everything that came out this past week just shows how much of a fraud Jamal Adams was this whole time. He was preaching how he's built differently, and he threw his teammates under the bus by going to the Dallas Cowboys players or whoever it was that he talked to and said, come get me, or whatever he said to them. And it shows that, he wanted to bail, and players take that stuff personally. And everything that Le'Veon Bell said, I agree with. He was, at the front of the line, banging the drum, trying to get him to come to the Jets. We're going to change the culture together. And he's out after a year. He forced his way out. I understand why Bell's upset. I really do.
Right. And, all that stuff came out. Costello reported 2 days ago that the Jets have been talking to Adams' agent for the past 3 weeks, almost daily. So it's like this was all baloney. And this is why I honestly believe that Joe Douglas orchestrated the whole thing. Who's easier to predict their reaction than Jamal Adams? He's emotionally based. You can always predict how to get a rise out of an emotional guy. They're the easiest guys to peg in the world. Jamal Adams is reactionary, talks before he thinks, and Joe Douglas is the exact opposite. When Jamal Adams went around Joe Douglas to the owner, my belief, now with hindsight, in fairness, I'm not trying to say I always thought this, but my belief is that Joe Douglas made his decision kind of then, like I'm gonna do things this way, and I'm gonna end up trading this guy, because Chris Johnson is the one that promised Jamal Adams a contract in January. That was never Joe Douglas, and Joe Douglas came out today, or it might have been yesterday. I don't know. I live in the woods, so I just don't know. But he came out and said, I never promised Jamal a contract in January, just so we're clear. That never came out of my mouth. The whole time about the Jets aren't in contact. They're, my phone is dead. They've been talking to his agent for 3 weeks, at least trying to get something done, or at least contacting him. So he knew the whole time it was all bullshit, and Joe Douglas let it be there, because what would have happened if we traded Jamal at the trade deadline? There would have been an avalanche of negative fan-based stuff. Now, 80%, if not more, of the fan base is like, good job, buddy. He let Jamal turn the fan base in our favor and pulled the trigger. That's what I think he did, man. I think he's that good. I hope I don't get proven wrong, but I really do. I think that's what happened.
That's a really interesting point, and it's something that, companies do in general. It's not exclusive to sports franchises. I remember I had worked for a company, and they brought in a guy to do like all the axing and kind of fire a lot of people, and it was under the disguise of like, hey, this guy's going to help us out. We're going to do all this thing. And then he makes all these crazy moves. And then all of a sudden the owner comes down and goes, no, we're getting rid of him. Like, this is ridiculous. And now the owner looks like the good guy because they got rid of the guy that did all the hard work and all the stuff like that. It's similar in that respect. That's a fascinating thing. I think that's interesting. If he got the fan base to sort of turn on Jamal because he knew how Jamal would react, brilliant. The guy is absolutely, light years ahead of anything we were thinking of.
Right. And even the coaches coming out, Adam Gase, nope, we love Jamal. Greg Williams, I support Jamal. Everybody, dude, they played it so perfectly. This is so unlike the Jets. But let's be real here. Greg Williams is a man in the room. Joe Douglas is a man in the room. Phil Savage is a man in the room. These guys, these are pros, man. They've been there, done that. They've been around the block. They've seen all this horse shit 1,000 times. And they played it the exact way they need to play it. Now, I may be putting a little bit more of conspiracy stuff on. I don't know. But they did it the perfect way, and it ended the perfect way for the New York Jets, which is what Joe Douglas keeps saying. I'm doing things that are in the best interest for the New York Jets. So don't get it twisted. That's what I'm doing. And when he came out and said that he never promised Jamal that, and Costello reported that they've been in contact with Jamal's agent for 3 weeks, it looks very much like that is what happened to me.
Yeah. Definitely. It looks like that Joe Douglas is playing checkers and everyone else is playing chess. Like, he's just one step ahead of everyone else. And he seems to be, I don't know, if putting a spin on it makes it seem like it's something he was doing something shady, which I don't think is necessarily the case. But I think he's been very careful with how he's come out and said things in the past few days. And it's been a very positive reaction from Jets fans. And the fact that, like Green Bean said it, 80+%, I would say, percent of the fan base is on his side is a great thing. Because when was the last time you saw that from the Jets fan base toward a general manager? Not in my lifetime.
Nah,
Right.
dude, it's been a long time since we were all like on a consensus thing, and something that was such a polarizing topic at the trade deadline, where it's like, hey, this is our captain, this is our star guy, it's the rah like fan dude, and he's the personality, he's the face of the franchise. Because let's be real, Jamal was the face of the franchise the 3 years he was with us, and now Sam Darnold's gonna have to take on that responsibility. It's amazing the 180. I don't know if I've seen a Jet fan opinion change on a player so drastically, so fast.
Yeah, it turned on him like that. It really did. And he went from the most loved guy 3 months ago to the most hated in 3 months. It's crazy.
Yeah, and I'm sure you guys have it. I still have some guys saying the Jets did them wrong, and I still have some people throwing those comments at me. And I think that I don't think that's necessarily going away. It's tough not to get emotional with sports. It really is. I mean, and I do it. I still think Kyle Clifton just might have been the greatest linebacker in NFL history. So what does that tell you? But so I still have those guys. But if you look at this in an intellectually logical plane, getting rid of Jamal Adams for this haul at this time is the exact way to build a team, or to give yourself the opportunity to build a team. This even like the idea of Jamal Adams' value being at its peak. I mean, if he plays next year and it's the same, if he plays just at the same high level, it doesn't necessarily increase his value, right? But if he gets hurt or plays lower, it decreases. This is it. This was the moment to do this, and the Seahawks bit. And from what I read too, I heard the Niners too were in this for a while, but our relationship with the Seahawks is strong, man. Look, we did that trade in the draft as well.
That's right.
Yeah, we swapped down with the whole Mims pick. Not to mention, it wasn't that long ago that we traded Sheldon Richardson over there too. So there is that strong connection across. Heck, Pete Carroll was our old coach. It all kind of comes full circle, I guess.
Yeah, he loves us.
Now, let's play a little thought experiment. Would you prefer to have Jamal Adams or Khalil Mack?
Come on.
Khalil Mack,
Okay.
yeah.
Well, would you prefer to have Jamal Adams or, I guess you could debate it, Jamal Adams or Odell Beckham Jr.? That one's probably a little tougher.
I would.
I would probably say Odell, but that's tougher. Yeah,
That's a little tougher. Minka Fitzpatrick or Jamal?
Jamal.
Okay, that's fair. I think Minka with the interceptions is so huge. They're just totally different types of safety.
But
Now, what about?
Yeah, I might prefer Jamal to Minka, but Minka Fitzpatrick has picks. But it's a free.
Now, what about?
I like where you're going with this, Brian.
Yeah, see, you know where I'm going. What about DeAndre Hopkins?
I'd rather.
Do you like DeAndre Hopkins? So
I do. What do you like Jalen Ramsey, Ryan?
I do like Jalen Ramsey. I like Jalen Ramsey a lot.
Jalen Ramsey over Jamal too, wouldn't you?
Stefon Diggs is another interesting player. I think I would probably prefer Stefon Diggs over Jamal Adams. And what's interesting about all the players we just mentioned, they all went for a cheaper price than Jamal Adams. Like, the fact that the Jets got 2 first-round picks, a third-round pick, and a starting caliber, above average starting caliber safety, nothing short of, like, phenomenal. Incredible trade compensation.
I can't say it enough. Joe Douglas did a phenomenal job with what he was able to do with this trade.
Yeah.
Now, I don't know. What else has gone on in Jet World? There's got to be some other good stuff. Like, let's take a look at the comments, see if there's anything kind of going on over there. Jet Life says Jamal Adams, yeah, strong like bull. Trade Darnold for Russ, says FM. Oh God, he's starting up that crazy stuff again. Sorry, FM. Most of you mono lovers wouldn't trade Darnold for Russ. That's not true. Like, if you could get Russell Wilson, you take Russell Wilson. He's a top 2 quarterback in this league, maybe top 3 at worst. But I love me some Sam. I'm gonna back me up some Sam. Now, what do you think a successful season? I guess we could kind of go there. What does a successful season look like for Sam Darnold, given all the weird sort of things that go on? Do you think, I don't know, what's a positive season?
For me, it's just the offense looking competent. Like, I would love to say, like, be a playoff team, but with this schedule, I don't think it's realistic. So if I want to set, like, a realistic expectation for this year, it's just give us a more watchable product. Like, don't score 5 touchdowns in the last 5 weeks of the year. Like, give us something nice to watch.
Oh, yeah. Well, that's just it. I want to be able to look at, like, a fantasy lineup and be like, oh, look, I have a Jet on there. Like, I picked one willingly. I didn't, like handed it at the end of the round or at the end of the draft. Greemy, what do you think a successful year is for Sam Darnold and the Jets in general, I guess?
Well, I'm looking for 4,000 yards. To me, it's all about Sam Darnold. And by extension, I think I want to see this offensive line start to gel. I want to see things like Becton pancaking guys that start going, holy shit. Like, we really have somebody here. I'd like to see Clark make his way into the starting lineup. Like, starting to see what our team actually looks like would be a successful season to me. And just like Matt said, like, I want to be able to watch the game. I don't care so much about, look, I want to win, but I wouldn't be heartbroken with a 7-9 year this year. Although I think we're going to be better than that. But I wouldn't be heartbroken if we get a 4,000 yard season, if our offensive line is looking like they're legitimate, if Quinnen Williams gets 8.5 sacks, like those kinds of. I want to see our young nucleus start to come out of the dark and look like they're actually going to be building blocks, as opposed to us making friggin' excuses, again and all that sort of stuff. I'd like to see Adam Gase show that he deserves to be a head coach or go. Like, to me, that's really what I'm looking for, because I don't know about it. I want to believe, but I don't. You know what I mean? Adam Gase is spooky.
That would be kind of where I land as well. I want to know that I want to see Sam progress. That's, big key. But I just want to know what Gase is. I don't want to have to make excuses. Like last year, I can justify the excuses. You have a ton of injuries. Sam's got mono. New system. Like, there was a lot of weird things. The McCagnon thing, getting fired after the draft, not bringing in players that Gase wanted. Like, there's a lot of issues with what happened last year for Gase, and I can find a way to tell him, hey, you get another year. But like, if we lose this season and now we lose, like, say we get 2 games in, Sam loses a year off his rookie contract. We now still don't have an answer on Adam Gase. that's like the worst case scenario that we could go into or go into this offseason with all these questions unanswered.
100%. Like Green Bean said, just answer some questions on the younger guys. Show that they're building blocks. That would be ideal.
Mm-hmm.
Right. What do you guys think of Quinnen Williams, man? What do you think of our boy? You see what he's doing?
I haven't been paying attention, but I know someone sent me a picture a while back, and I think what did he do today? Did they show like him doing stuff?
He lost weight. He looks thin walking in.
Oh, all right.
He looks, but not like thin. He just doesn't look like baby fatty. He stopped eating Oreos. He said Oreos by name, so that must have been an issue.
Hey, it is Milk's favorite cookie.
Yes, it is, and he, loves his milk. So, he took a completely different tack toward his health this year. Like, there's no junk food, there's no sugar, all that kind of stuff. Like, he completely building speed, agility, and added the dietary things to that. So he's serious, man. Like, that's all you could really ask for in the offseason. So it's exciting, It's exciting. I believe in that kid. I do. I didn't want him, but I believe in him.
Yeah, I see. With Greg Williams, I want this to be like the next Aaron Donald. That's what I want to get out of Quinnen Williams. I just want to see that kind of return on this. Now, I remember, I don't know who sent it to me. Someone sent me a picture of, like, I think it was Carlos Dunlap. God, I don't even remember. It was 3 other defensive tackles, interior defensive linemen, and it showed the statistics they had year 1 in the NFL, and then, like, obviously they turned into, like, all pro caliber players, and Quinnen Williams was right in line with the other 3 players, and I apologize for not knowing the name offhand. But I think if you could see a big jump from Quinnen Williams this year, you could kind of see him, even if he just wrecks a little havoc, he doesn't necessarily have to get the sacks. Now, we don't want him to turn into Leonard Williams where he doesn't get any sacks ever, but, like, I just want to see him kind of wreck havoc the way we saw him do it in Alabama.
I think he'll be like Sheldon Richardson at his best in like 2013-14, which is like a Pro Bowl caliber player, a solid player. I think as much as I would love for Aaron Donald, like I'm rooting for Aaron Donald. Please God.
There's only one of them. There's way more like Sheldon Richardson level players than there is Donald.
But if I had to put like what my realistic expectation is, it's like a prime Sheldon Richardson type of a career.
I'd sign up for that. I loved me some Sheldon when he was here. Like, yeah, he was a little bit of a knucklehead, but like really liked the production. I mean, heck, we played him at linebacker because he was so athletic. Like when we had no one else, we're like, okay, our defensive line's stacked. Sheldon, yeah, go play outside linebacker for a little bit and like run around. If we could get that kind of athleticism from Quinnen Williams, I'd be pretty happy.
Yeah, man. I mean, I think, and so that dovetails with the original question, which is like, what would be successful? I think, like toward the end of the year, seeing like Bryce Hall come on. Bryce Hall, if that injury is better, that is a starting outside cornerback. Like I watched a lot of Bryce Hall because I was in Charlottesville, which is where UVA is. So he's like the king of the castle, in Charlottesville. And that kid is legit. The fact that he made it to the 5th and we got him, if that injury is gone, like if he heals from it, we have a starting cornerback. But I'd like to see them take the same kind of method they did with Blasan Austin and with Marcus May, like nice and slow. No reason to get this kid in there. But toward the end of the year, seeing Bryce Hall out there with the likes of Blasan Austin and maybe even Lamar Jackson, if they could get him to not bug out when he has to turn around, that guy might be a good safety too. But anyway, I'd like to see some of those guys start to show some stuff. And I think that we have some good kids, man. I think it's exciting right now with Joe Douglas at the helm. I really do. It's good stuff.
It almost feels like year 1 of Sam Darnold. Like when it was like, okay, let's just sit back and watch. And like, I don't have to worry about the win-loss. I just have to just see the development. That's all I want to see. Now with Sam, I think if we can get a full 16 games out of Sam and COVID doesn't screw anything up, he doesn't get hurt or anything like that, I think we're going to get 4,000 yards out of Sam. I really do. I think with an improved offensive line, even if this line plays at a top 20 level, I think that's a significant upgrade from where we were last year. I think Bell's going to play better. I think getting Herndon back. And even this defense, even though we're losing Jamal, we're getting back Mosley and Avery Williamson. Quinnen Williams is in his second year. Not to mention the pieces we added on top of it. So, like, I don't feel like this defense is really going to take any sort of step back. Like, I think this team overall is better. I don't think Jamal's leaving affects the win-loss column at all.
Yeah, that was just what I was going to ask, because it came up on the podcast episode I did this week. It was a question, how much of an impact is losing Jamal? And honestly, I don't think my expectation win-loss changes at all. I still think they're a 7 or an 8-win team with McDougal and getting the picks. Obviously, the picks aren't to help out right now, but I don't think that they're going to take a significant step back and now be a 5-win team because they lost Jamal Adams.
Yeah, Greenbean, what do you think about that?
Well, and it's funny. There are guys in the chat saying, I want wins right now, though. I want wins this year. And I do get it. And look, just so you know, like, as much respect as I have for Matt O'Leary and his opinion, I happen to disagree. I think just slightly, ever so slightly. I think that we're realistically, I know I said in my video 12-4. That was kind of serious, kind of jokey. But I think we're a 9-7 team. I think that final playoffs, that extra playoff spot was put in there for us. That's how I see it. That was put in there so we can make the playoffs. That's where we're going to slide in this year. And I don't see Jamal Adams, his departure, affecting that one way or the other, even though I do think he's great. Let's be clear here. I was on this side of signing him for most of this time, up until just a few weeks ago. I've had it. It was like your video, Ryan, recently. Like, I think
I'm done.
That was exactly how I felt. But up until that point, I was really looking forward to the solution. I thought he's a jerk off. Sorry, he's a jerk. He just wants his money, and it's the wrong way to do it, but that's all it is. But I don't see his departure taking away 2 wins. I just don't see it. His best games were against the Giants, against Daniel Jones, and against Washington. And Dallas game was good, but against Washington, he had 3 sacks. So the rest of the year, he had 3.5. We're talking about this number of 6.5 sacks like he lit up the world. Sure, it's good for a safety, but don't forget, 3.5 sacks were against an atrocious Washington football team, offensive line, and against a rookie quarterback, right? So what's that all about, by the way? We could maybe get to that later, but that's whole different. But Jamal Adams had 3 sacks against the Redskins, man. Against 2 rookie quarterbacks, he had most of his stats. 2 games. So the other 14, he was kind of fine, but he wasn't changing the game, and I don't think he was doing anything. But I do think we're going to brace yourself for some wins, everybody.
Now here's an interesting thing. The Redskins and Giants, they were both picking in the top 5. Like, clearly, number 2. What were the Giants? 3 or 4 this year? So, like, those teams were terrible. Not to mention the one game you brought up with Dallas, where Jamal had that stop on the goal line and everyone goes, oh, that's amazing. People forget that he's the reason they got down there in the first place. He had the pass interference on, like, 1st and 25 or something like that. It was some ridiculous, like, penalty that they had that put him into, like inside the 20. So I think you guys are spot on. I don't think, maybe a win, possibly. Like there could be a play that you see that you're like, oh, maybe Jamal could have done it. But you look at the numbers for, like, Jamal's actual, like, speed and, like, everything like that. He ran, like, I think it was a 4.56 40. It was, like, really, he's not an impressive athlete in terms of, like, his actual speed, his strength. He's some people will argue he's undersized. Now he's great around the line of scrimmage, and he was great up, stopping runs behind the line of scrimmage, getting after the quarterback. I don't want to take anything away from the guy, but I think we definitely glorified him more because of how vocal he was, because of how much passion he showed. I think there was more, like, of that to his game than actual I don't know, game changing, like, actual impact, I guess. I don't know if I'm saying that right.
No, you're right. It's the position he plays. It in his 3-year career with the Jets, how many games did he win for them? 2, maybe? The Giants game, the Dallas game, maybe.
Yeah.
That's it in 3 years. And again, that's not taking anything away from him. He's a great player. I would say he's a top 3, top 1 even player at his position. It's just that he plays strong safety. If he was an edge rusher or a quarterback or a left tackle and a top 3 player at one of those positions, completely different story. But that's not what we're talking about here. We're talking about a strong safety.
Yeah. DJ Sin, thank you for the super chat. He says, how about healthy and high draft picks? I think, is that what he's talking about for a healthy season or a good season? I think that's where that came from.
Yeah.
Yeah, if I could get everyone get through the season healthy and have really high draft picks from Seattle, that would be a successful season. I could sign up for that. And then Sam Roche, he chimes in. He goes, I'm scared that Gase goes 7-9 or above. I believe in Joe Douglas and our front office, excluding the Johnsons, but this team won't take the next step with Adam Gase. I'm so concerned with Adam Gase because everything I see, like I don't think Jamal was wrong in the article he had that went out to the New York Daily News. I think that's probably right. Like, I think Adam Gase probably goes a little bit into his shell. I think he probably doesn't address things the way he might, we might want to see him. He doesn't have like a fiery kind of personality. It doesn't seem like, at least. So that part does scare me. Watching some of his boneheaded play calls too. Like there was it Nanny or Blewett or maybe even Matt? Maybe you brought it up. Like the amount of times he ran the ball on certain downs and distances, and the amount of times he like passed the ball on like downs and distances that just made no sense. Like he was trying to outsmart everyone in the league. That's really my concern, and I hope that like the play calling gets better. I hope that Sam is able to do some RPOs and you can kind of get a little bit more, I don't know, maybe energy into the offense and see a little bit more excitement. Because you see Peyton Manning, you see Frank Gore, you see Demaryius Thomas. They all back Adam Gase. And, maybe that's just because they were in the twilight of their career and he gave them another shot and gave them a little bit of life. But I don't know. I feel like there's got to be something to it.
I don't know. It's very tough for me to buy in. And the reason for that is if you just look at his offensive numbers in the last 4 years that he's been a head coach, it hasn't been pretty, man. It's bottom 10. And if you're going to be an offensive guru, quote unquote, you got to give me better than bottom 10. And realistically, outside of his time with Peyton Manning, when has he had dominant offenses? Even the 10-6 year with the Dolphins, his offense was decent. It was pretty good. It was around middle of the pack, if I remember correctly. But he never had this elite level offense. And everyone seems to talk him up like he is this elite offensive mind. And I don't know about you guys. I don't see him that way.
Yeah. I mean, that's the problem, isn't it? But now that also doesn't mean that he's not that. I mean, you have guys like Peyton Manning. I'm with it. And I happen to agree with that. And like I said before, Gase spooks me. I don't particularly like him. But that being said, guys like Peyton Manning are saying this is one of the most elite offensive minds I've ever been around. So what does that mean? I mean, it means that a guy that we all respect for his knowledge and ability in the game says that this is the guy. Now, there are excuses, but excuses come from somewhere. Last year, his quarterback got mono. His offensive line was the worst offensive line that we've ever seen. In Miami, his starting quarterback played less than 50% of the snaps. So, I mean, so what does it mean? Does it mean that he can only win with a starting quarterback? I don't know. And I agree that we would, in order to label somebody a guru, they probably should have some elite stats backing them up, which he doesn't necessarily have. But there are people out there that say this is an elite offensive mind. And you heard Le'Veon Bell recently too. His offense is exceedingly complex, which a lot of people like the Jarvis Landrys and Jay Guys, they maybe can't get it. And that's why Gase, even though they're talented guys, just says, look, this isn't the guy I want because he can't handle how brilliant I am. Very similar to another coach we had named Joe Walton. It might be before your time, but the same things were said. They said he was such a great offensive mind that nobody could understand what the hell he was talking about, which isn't necessarily good. So I don't know, man. But I don't know. I think if he gets us to 9-7 and we get in the playoffs, I mean, I hate that middle of the pack kind of arbitrary, just good enough not to suck. I get it, but who's to say? Is my thought. If he gets us there, let's ride with him. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, ideally, I want Gase to prove us wrong or prove us right or whatever it is. I would like to see him be the head coach for the next 5+ years, because that means something's working and you see Sam Darnold progressing. Like, if Sam comes out and throws 4,000 yards and we only win 5 games, I'm holding on to Adam Gase. Like it would have to be something kind of squirrely, I think, for me to want to move on from, if Sam shows that kind of leap, unless they really believe, like, you know, hey, the play calling held Sam back, then maybe you have a little bit more of a discussion there. Man, I don't know what to think of Gase. I really think it's a cop-out saying 8-8, I feel like, but I think 8-8 is reasonable for the Jets to get to if we have a full calendar year. There's some games in there that I could see the Jets squeaking by. Like, our offensive line is better. Our tight ends are better. Our wide receivers are better. Our running back is going to be better purely because of the offensive line. The quarterback, I don't see taking a step back. It's really all about the play calling for me. And I think that's where we're going to win and lose games. And that might be could be the nail in the coffin, or it could be the, jettison that helps Adam Gase. Because you brought it up. He did not have Ryan Tannehill. When he has a starting quarterback, he has a positive record with the Jets. He has a positive record with the Dolphins. So there's something there. It's just, and I know we've talked about Joe Blewett before. Joe's broken down his plays, and he goes, Gase is not as bad as everyone kind of gives him credit for, or not credit for, I guess. Joe's a pretty smart dude. I like Joe's film breakdown, so I'll try to side with him on a lot of this sort of stuff. But man, yeah, Gase does not give me the warm and fuzzy feelings inside.
No, definitely not.
Mumtaz comes out and says Pete Carroll is betting on himself. He was defensive backs coach. He crafted Legion of Boom from fifth and 6th round picks. I wish we had not let him go. Jamal Adams will be good there. However, we have JD. Our time is now. Now, is he saying he wishes we never let Pete Carroll go, or we never?
Carroll.
That's kind of how I read that. I tend to agree. I think the passion that he had. I don't want to say I'm a big USC fan, but I loved when we drafted Keyshawn. He was from USC. I really liked Matt Leinart. I really wanted Reggie Bush that year, like in 06. I was so excited about it. So I like Pete Carroll. I like the Legion of Boom. I like, beast mode. I really like Seattle. So I'm not really wishing negative things on Jamal Adams. But man, do I want to see Le'Veon Bell plant Jamal Adams on his ass week 14 this year. Like, more than anything else. We could go 1-15. If the one win is against Seattle and Jamal Adams gets put in the dirt, I would be very happy.
Can't wait till he runs into Becton. But here's the thing about Pete Carroll. Let's not forget. I like Pete Carroll too, man. Okay. He got fired by the Jets, went to the Patriots. He was the Patriots head coach for 4 years. He was a failure up there. Okay. Then he had to go back down to college for, I think it was a decade. He refined.
Yeah, it was 10 years.
I mean, we're talking 13, 14 years since he was the Jets coach before he took the Seattle job. There's a reason he needed to simmer in a very similar way that Bill Belichick, don't forget, he was a failure as the Browns head coach. He went back and was a defensive coordinator for almost a decade. With the Patriots, the Jets, before he got that head coaching job and became who he was with Tom Brady and all that kind of stuff. But saying that, like using hindsight to say, oh, we should have never let Pete Carroll go. Hey, man, Pete Carroll, I was at the game, the fake spike game. We were 6-4 playing for first place against Miami. We were dancing in the stadiums. We were up 24-6, whatever it was. And they came back and beat us. Pete Carroll didn't win another game that year. And then we hired Kotite. We won 4 games. We won games in 2.5 years, man. So, I don't have as much love for keeping Pete Carroll as many others do. I like him. I think he's doing a good job. I think Jamal's going to thrive under Pete Carroll. All right. But I don't think it's worth 2 firsts and a third. That I don't think.
Well, that's just it. That's the argument that we can have all day. If Jamal was, if Jamal wanted a cheap contract and Jamal played and had, a ton of interceptions and all that other stuff. If you offer me 2 first-round picks, a third-round pick, and an above-average starting safety to replace the safety that I'm trading you, I'm going to make that move anyway. Like, regardless of how I feel about Jamal, from a talent standpoint or from a personality standpoint, I would have made that trade in the best case scenarios too. Like, I think that is a haul. We got a ton of picks in return for this.
Well said, man. Well said. Even if Jamal wasn't being a peckerhead right now, that's the kind of trade that if it comes floating down the river, you go, oh, yeah, I can't say no to that, right? You can't say no to that, no matter how much you like a player. That's not a quarter. I mean, especially a safety, man. Okay? Some of my favorite players ever are safeties. I love the safety position. Love guys who run up into the line and cry. I love it. It's my kind of thing. I'm still not dumb enough to think that a safety is worth 2 first-round picks and a third and another safety. You don't say no to that. That's a good point, Ryan.
Yeah, I think that's it's kind of where I've fallen on it, and it's something that this whole offseason I kind of flip-flop. I don't want to say flip-flop back and forth. I felt that Jamal was like forcing his way out anyway, but like I'm okay with wanting to like extend him. Like I didn't want to lose the guy. I also didn't think we'd get that kind of return. I see some guys looking for call-in, so let's try to jump over to the phones. We'll get some call-in questions going here. Let's see. Let me throw the number up on the screen. Where is it? Bam! Phone number's on the screen. You guys call in, ask us your questions, but remember, keep the questions short because these guys are not going to be able to hear the questions. I have to reiterate it to them. So remember, questions just a little bit shorter. I could see if we had a few calls that tried to call in already. I could see the little timestamp on it. Sneaky. Yeah, guys, if you have not subbed up Green Bean and Matt, I know you guys have probably seen all their videos before, but make sure to sub them up. Their links are in the description down below. And we got our first caller.
Call from
Beastmaster69.
To accept, press 1.
Beastmaster69, what's up, dude? Welcome to Talkin' Jets.
Hey, what's up?
Oh, not too much. What's on your mind, brother?
So I've been thinking about the whole coaching staff as a whole, like more the offensive part of it, and I was wondering if I think Adam Gase would actually be okay if we had a different offensive coordinator and actually a QB coach.
That's interesting.
But what do you think about that?
All right, let's pass it to the panel and see what we kind of think here. So he's saying, I think Adam Gase would be a pretty good head coach if we had a different offensive coordinator and a different quarterbacks coach. And I don't know how I feel about that because I would almost rather the opposite. I would rather Gase be the offensive coordinator and the quarterbacks coach as opposed to the head coach. Like I do think what Jamal was saying is right, where he doesn't seem to lead guys, at least from like the outsider perspective. I could be totally wrong. I'm not in the locker room there, but it seems like there was, it seemed like Greg Williams felt like more of the coach and guys kind of rallied around that as opposed to the offensive side of the ball. I could be wrong. What do you guys think about that, Green Bean? I'll go to you first.
Yeah, I mean, I think, Adam Gase, he's in his, supposed value is his offensive mind. So it's very similar to like think about when Cleveland hired Freddie Kitchens and then Freddie Kitchens hired Todd Monken. That to me doesn't make sense. Like the reason that you wanted Freddie Kitchens is not a head coach. He's an offensive coordinator. So let him kind of install his offense. The same thing with Adam Gase. I don't know what Dowell-Loggins does. He could be brilliant for all I know. I swear to God, I tried to research that guy. I think my video on him was 44 seconds or something like that about his benefit. I don't know. But Gase loves this guy. But I don't know what he really does. Sam Darnold seems to like him too. He mentions him often. So I don't know. But I think I agree with what Ryan said. I would love to have a real coach. But let me say, Gase has done some very head coachy kinds of things. Like when Greg Williams benched Jamal, Gase took that on the chin. When Greg Williams kept Avery Williamson out there to run his defense, Gase said, no, that was my decision. He took those bullets for his staff. That's very head coach-like behavior. And that's why I think the team is behind him. And not for nothing, this is the first year we haven't fired an assistant coach in, like, I swear to God, I think it's 15 years. We have had a sacrificial lamb every single year, not under Gase. That's a head coachy kind of move. Now, that could be Douglas, I don't know. But Gase has done some things that I scratch my head like, huh. You know what I mean? So sure. I don't know. But I think bringing in an offensive might be too head buddy. You know what I mean?
I think the only coach, it wasn't really a coach, but the only person that got fired, I believe, was the strength and conditioning coach. I think that's who it was. They let someone go that was basically in charge of like the health of the players, and because that was a huge thing with us last year with all the injuries and the money left on IR. But yeah, Matt, what do you think about this whole situation with Gase?
I'm not quite sure what Darnold does, honestly. He's
the guy that holds the flag.
He holds the flag. He also like swings those like pool noodle things at Darnold and like those footwork things. I'm not really quite sure what he's actually doing there. And all kidding aside, this is Adam Gase's offense. I don't think Dowell Loggins is in the league if Adam Gase isn't a head coach right now, though. I don't think Dowell Loggins has a job anywhere else.
I think that's interesting. I think you could definitely argue it, at least from what we saw last year. But it's even hard to grade anything we saw last year. Like, even just trying to make videos during the course of the season last year, I'm like trying to make a top 5 takeaways from a game where Sam's not in it, and like, the offensive line is falling all over the place. Like, clearly, like, things have gone awry, and it's like I can't even take anything from this. This is like, I'm like grasping at straws to try and find like positives from last year. So I think this is going to be a huge year for us. I just hope it is a year for us. That's really the biggest thing. I'm going to open up the phone lines again. We'll try to get another call in. But yeah, I mean, Dowell Loggins. We got to come up with like a good sort of like name for flag guy. It's like, I don't know.
What's that guy's name? Patton Oswalt.
Oh my God, yeah, that's right. He looks exactly like Patton Oswalt. All right, we got another caller on the line.
Call from
Charlie Morrow.
Charlie, what's good, brother? Welcome to Talkin' Jets.
Hey, Ryan, what's going on?
Oh, hanging in there. Another day in paradise. What's on your mind, brother?
So I have a question for everybody. Do you think if the Seahawks don't re-sign Jamal, they would have to justify this trade by winning at least one Super Bowl?
Ooh, good question. Good question. That's going to be a very easy question for us to answer. So if the Seahawks do not re-sign Jamal, do you think they have to win a Super Bowl to justify this trade? 110%.
Yeah, definitely 100%. They are doing. It's an all-in move. If you give up 2 first-round picks, you got to win a Super Bowl. Yeah.
I'm sorry. What was the question? I was talking to somebody on our chat. I apologize.
Is the trade that the Seahawks made, if they don't re-sign Jamal, do they have to win a Super Bowl in the next 2 years to justify this trade?
Oh, yeah, man. This is a big one. Actually, what's their GM's name? Big one for him. If this doesn't work out, I think that's the kind of move that would get somebody fired. If they don't win a Super Bowl with Jamal Adams, and then in 2 years he's talking about leaving or holding them hostage for $23 million a year, whatever it wants, that guy's getting fired. I can see it. That's how important this one is for them.
Yeah, it's a ballsy move because you're really rolling the dice on 2 more years of Jamal and then possibly like not having him. I mean, unless you can sign him to a long-term deal and like guarantee, like I think Seattle's going to be fun to watch. I like Russell Wilson a lot. I still like watching Jamal. Like, he's fun to watch around the line of scrimmage just because I want to see him not do well right now. Does not mean I don't like actually enjoy the player. God, I don't know. What do you think their win total is? That division's not easy. They got San Francisco. The Cardinals are coming up. The Rams are no slouches. I mean, it's not unreasonable to think Seattle might not even make the playoffs.
I think they probably.
Although I guess I guess that if you're adding the 7th playoff, see, I would think that division could be the one that sends 3 teams if they had to.
I'm going to say 10 or 11 wins, probably.
Mm-hmm. Green Bean, what about you?
Train wreck, 3-13. We get the 4th pick in the draft. That's what I say.
Oh man, could you just imagine that? Like, I don't wish Russell Wilson hurt, but if he could opt out for the season and like just give us that whole, oh god, I would love it. Even a top 15 pick. I don't have to get that crazy.
We were talking before the show started about the Rams 2 years ago were in the Super Bowl. Last year they did not make the playoffs. When the Raiders
Call
traded
from Chris
Khalil
from
Mack
Florida.
to
To accept,
the
press 1. To send a
Bears,
voicemail.
they had just won the NFC North. Those picks, they were talking the same thing about those picks having no lower value as they are.
Hey
now
Chris,
with
just
the
a
Seattle
second.
picks.
I'll get to your call in just a minute. Sorry, I picked up Chris on the phone, but no, keep going. Yeah, no, I
saying stuff happens in the NFL. You never know. I'm with Matt. Don't get me wrong. I'm just being weird. But it's you never know.
That's just it. I think 10-6 to 11-5. I mean, I think Russell Wilson is one. I think he's the second best quarterback. I think Pat Mahomes is one. I think he's number 2. I think Lamar is probably number 3. And I mean, just watching what Russell Wilson can do on a week in, week out basis when he really like didn't have much of an offensive line and didn't have a crazy ton of help. I mean, they've picked in the mid to late 20s almost every year, aside from the year that we traded them Sheldon Richardson. I think they earned I believe it was the 18th pick. They wound up trading back from that 18th pick and picked 27. So you'll see a lot of people say like, oh, well, they are always in the mid 20s. Only 2 years ago they weren't. So it's not unreasonable to think they might miss the playoffs. I mean, it's certainly possible. Chris, thank you for holding on the phone. What's on your mind, brother?
What's going on, guys? First of all, JETS and Joe Douglas, we trust. Still loving the trade we got. Absolutely. I wanted to talk to you guys and get your viewpoints on. So I understand. I already hear from a lot of you guys' standpoint about the Jay, whatever his name is, Clowney, about joining the team. My question though is, considering that we don't really have a lot of edges that are still open for availability, and clearly we want to get a good team or at least present a good example. Joe Douglas wants to show the fans like, hey, this is still not just a bye year. I'm still focused. I want to show the progression. If he was to sign Clowney to us, what would be a really good contract deal that would make you guys feel more confident in both Joe Douglas and his options? As far as like signing Clowney into the Jets, just wanted to hear your point on that, guys.
Sure. Awesome. And thanks for the call, Chris. All right. So what he's asking is the whole Jadeveon Clowney question. We don't really have an edge rusher. We have some guys that we're hoping kind of develop with Zuniga and Huff, but is there some kind of contract or something that works out with the Jadeveon type deal that benefits the Jets? Like, what would that number be? I know Green Bean had said $4 or $5 million. I think that's probably a pipe dream. I think you could get him for maybe 10 on a 1-year contract. Like if he's really not, doing anything right now. I think the Browns offered him a pretty big deal at one point, and I don't know if that deal is even on the table anymore because of like the stuff that's going on. They may not want to roll the dice on that. I don't know. Jadeveon, he's a player that can take over a game. It may not come in the form of sacks, but he can annihilate an offensive line. And he had probably 2 or 3 games like that last year. But there's just some weird things. Like I think for me, I would rather the situational pass rusher in Vinny Curry for way cheaper. Even though he's a little bit older, I would prefer that route, I think, over Clowney. Matt, what do you think?
I pretty much agree with everything you just said. I think I put my number at maybe $8 million. So you get Jadeveon Clowney for $8 million for 1 year. And yeah, I mean, again, he's not a bad player. It's just I don't see the fit with the Jets and what they need. If they had the 30th ranked run defense in the league last year, then I'm saying, hell yeah, bring him in. Let's go. But they struggle getting after the quarterback, and he's not someone who's going to get you double-digit sacks. So I'd rather probably, like you said, take a swing on a player like that who, maybe they only play, 50% of the snaps and give you 5 sacks coming in on third down. I think that could be a little bit more effective than paying someone like Clowney, who could then in turn take reps away from Quinnen Williams to an extent.
Yeah, no, that's a good point too. Green Bean, how do you feel on that the whole topic with Clowney?
Yeah, I mean, again, I feel you guys are nailing it, and I think, well, you look at whose position is he taking? What, Basham, maybe? Is that he's going to take
Henry
reps
Anderson,
away?
maybe?
Yeah, or
Maybe
Basham.
Anderson? Yeah, one of the two.
Yeah, I mean, look, I don't know. I don't. Again, if the money's there, he's probably better than who we have, right? But again, I don't see him as a long-term solution. And our run defense is I mean, we're stout. You know what I mean?
Yeah, we're getting Mosley.
It would have to make financial sense. I just think Joe Douglas.
Yeah, and you got to think too. Our run defense.
I think just give him a call. I'm sorry.
No, it's okay. It's the little skipping that I think you're done. And I'm like, oh, geez, sorry. No, I think getting Mosley and getting Williamson back is going to help this run defense. Like, we lost Leonard Williams. He was a big, run defender. You lose Jamal Adams, who was a great safety against the run. But I think you're getting better pieces back. Like, I think Williamson is probably better than Leonard Williams. I think Mosley is at least comparable to Jamal Adams. Like, he's 1A, 1B probably with best defensive players on the Jets. Adam says JD will make big signing or trade before the season starts to send a message to the locker room that we are all in on winning this year. Thoughts? The one player that I'm all about, and we've brought it up already, was the Yannick Ngakoue. If you can get him and you believe you can sign him like long term, that is an immediate upgrade at pass rusher. He'll be the best pass rusher that we've had probably since Calvin Pace. And then you just hope that he keeps growing. He's 25 years old, just turned 25 in the offseason. So I would love to see that. Not a first round pick for him, but I would put a condition on it. If you could say, hey, look, we'll trade you, maybe it's a third round pick. And then, hey, if the Jets re-sign him, you'll also get a second. So let's say you give up 2 picks for him. It's a second and a third. I think that's reasonable for the caliber player you're getting, as long as you can re-sign him. The whole not being able to re-sign him is a big thing. Matt, is there a player you see that Joe Douglas could trade for and kind of make a big splash that would kind of galvanize this team?
I would say 2 names. One you just mentioned in Yannick Ngakoue, or the second one's not even really a name. It's more of a position, a wide receiver, like a big-time wide receiver, whether it be a Juju, whether it be a pick somebody from the Buccaneers, because they have 3 wide receivers that they could potentially.
What was it? Allen Robinson from the Bears could potentially.
I like Allen Robinson a lot. That's another good one. But to me, those are really the only other 2 positions that I think they could attack right now via trade that could move the needle forward in terms of win-loss record and projection for the season.
Greenbean, what about you? Is there a player out there that you kind of think might make sense for the Jets to trade for, or even a position, something to, chew over?
Darren Lee, I think, would be really good to sign.
Oh God!
That's a really good question, and I like the way the question was crafted. Like, to send a message, like, hey man, this isn't just a year where we're pushing aside. Like, we want to actually make an impact this year. Yeah, I don't think Clowney is that guy. I think Clowney's probably disliked by as many players as maybe like him. He's dirty, man. Mm-hmm. He's a dirty player. And don't forget, in order to be dirty, people got to receive the dirt. So there's all that stuff. He's been dirty to people. So I don't know if Clowney is that guy. I think Juju would probably be a good one. I would love to see Godwin, or even like Gallup, or somebody like that. Trading some capital for those guys. Ngakoue would be, the best. I would happily take the Seattle first this year and send it for Ngakoue if there's a sign and trade. I would happily do that.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think now that we have that extra first round pick and you can guarantee that this guy has produced in the NFL, I really like Ngakoue. Ngakoue. He has such a knack for stripping the ball out and just creating havoc in the backfield, even if it's not necessarily sacks. Like, I think he only had 10 sacks last year or something like that. But the strip sack, that's what you want to see. You want to see those type of impact plays that our defense really hasn't had a ton of. It's been tough for us to get those turnovers. and he's one that could really kind of move the needle, and it's a position that we really don't have. You got to think Jordan Jenkins too. He's probably moving on after this year. I don't see us, although I didn't see us re-signing him this year, so who knows. But if you think Zuniga or Huff might be able to fill in for Jordan Jenkins when he leaves, you're still looking for that really good pass rusher on the other side, and I think Ngakoue kind of solves that problem.
Yeah, he had 8 sacks this year, but that's the lowest of his career. I'm pretty sure in his rookie year he had 8, and this past year was 8. So he's at minimum giving you 8 sacks, more than likely double digits. Yeah, sign me up for that. A floor of 8 sacks? Yes, please.
Yeah, I think that would be huge. Guys, remember, if you have not signed up and followed these two great content creators, their links are in the description down below. Make sure you hit them up. I have the phone lines open again, so make sure you get your calls in. But remember, keep your questions short because they will not be able to hear the phone call. I have to reiterate the question, and I'm not too good with the memory thing. So keep it short.
Amazon Alexa.
To accept, press 1. To send.
So apparently we have a phone call from Amazon Alexa. Welcome to Talkin' Jets.
Hi, Ryan. Just wanted to know if Adam Gase gets fired, which head coach would you guys want for the Jets next season? I would personally want Greg Williams as the head coach and want him to hire a new offensive coordinator.
All right, good question, Alexa. Holy smokes. You guys should go back and watch the replay of that because you guys will enjoy that. It was actually like Alexa. It was the voice of the Alexa like Dot or like whatever that. Yeah, so it's saying if Adam Gase is fired at the end of the year, who do we want to see the next head coach potentially be? Is there someone kind of on your radar? Alexa mentioned Greg Williams. I like Greg Williams. I don't foresee that ever happening. I think the Bounty Gate thing kind of tainted that for him. I think that's probably why he hasn't really been a head coach other than an interim head coach. But Matt, is there anyone that you particularly see on the radar as a potential fit?
I have a few names that I can give you. Number 1, Eric Bieniemy, the offensive coordinator of the Chiefs. Now, I know everyone's going to say, well, Andy Reid calls the plays. Yes, most of the time he does, but Eric Bieniemy also calls plays, and he has a lot to do with in the strategy, coming up with the game plans and stuff like that. And the Andy Reid coaching tree is absolutely phenomenal. I think Bieniemy's long deserving of a job. I would be more than happy with that. Outside of Bieniemy, I think you can see guys like PJ Fleck from the college round. He's Minnesota's head coach. He turned that program around, kind of like the Matt Rule kind of thing, where he turns programs around. And he's my guy, so that's
of course.
And depending on how the offense is in Baltimore, maybe Greg Roman. He really did a good job, I thought, from transitioning from Joe Flacco to Lamar Jackson. So if he's able to implement that kind of change that quickly, I would be excited to see what he could do with Sam Darnold. So those are 3 names that come to mind for me.
Green Bean, what about you? Is there anyone that you particularly want to see?
Yeah, well, I like Matt's list. I'm not as high on Bieniemy, and for the reason he mentioned too. I mean, but there's a good. I mean, like you said, Andy Reid's coaching tree is good, but I think he's being overlooked because he's the right hand to the genius, and the genius is running the thing that you want him to have. You know what I mean? But then again, he's learning from him too. So I don't know, but I'm a little less excited by Bieniemy. But I love Greg Roman. Another one I'll add to that is Joe Brady, who I thought was going to be considered for some head coaching jobs this year. And Matt Rule got him for his offensive coordinator. I think within a year or two, he'll be a head coach in this league. So that would be a good one too. But I don't know. I'd probably want somebody with head coaching experience that isn't Adam Gase. I wanted McCarthy. That was my guy. So I'm rewatching Dallas. But so I don't know. That's my list.
Yeah, McCarthy was kind of the guy I wanted during that whole process. I would say Bieniemy is going to be the popular one that I think everyone brings up because he's been on the head coaching carousel for the last 2 off seasons and he hasn't gotten that job. And that's to me is probably the most concerning if enough NFL teams that are switching over head coaches are kind of passing on him. Now, Matt said it, the Andy Reid coaching tree is fantastic. So if we go with him, I'm okay with it. I'm not going to think I'll be slightly maybe concerned, but not enough where I was like as concerned as I was with Adam Gase. I think it would be a step up. Outside of that, I don't know. Ravens offensive coordinator is a good option. I'd probably look for just anyone that has had any success with a young quarterback that could help groom Sam Darnold. That it's all has to be about Sam, in my opinion, and it's just I don't care who it is as long as it's someone that helps Sam grow. That's kind of, I don't know where I'm at. Let's jump to the phone lines. We'll get another call in there. Guys, remember, keep your question short because I have to reiterate the question to Matt and Green Bean. Have a few calls popping through. Just got one to actually catch and actually ring. We got about 19 minutes left in the stream, and we got a caller on the line.
Call from
Jake.
Jake, what's good, brother? Welcome to Talkin' Jets.
Hey, Ryan, another week, my friend. How are you?
I'm good. I'm hanging in there. I'm finally glad to have the panel back together and just, talking Jets with these guys. What's on your mind?
Yeah, well, first tell them I said hello. It's been
Absolutely.
a while. I guess a good week for me because I got a job interview, so life is getting a lot better COVID time. With the last
Congratulations.
time I called you.
Yeah, I remember you. It was like, oh, man, freshly out of work. It's like, crap. But that's awesome. That's good. That's good. You got the interview. How are you feeling about it? You think the interview went well?
Yeah. It's actually a big sports chiropractor. He actually works for hospital special surgery, so I'm hoping I get that job.
Oh, that's awesome. That's really cool. So what's on your mind? What are you thinking about the whole Jamal Adams thing, or what's your question more so? I don't want to direct you one way or the other.
Well, I'm just going to make my weekly statement, and I'm just going to say it that I still don't think there's going to be a season. And I say that because the Miami Marlins thing should kind of tell you more that this is not going to go the way I think it is. And you're seeing a lot of these, and it's not a coincidence the next day you're seeing all these players starting to opt out. So I'm not going to be a pessimist. I just want to state that first. But my question is yesterday I saw your chat, or the chat you did with, was it Entertainer? What was his name again? I'm sorry.
Yeah, Chris the Entertainer.
Chris the Entertainer. He was great, actually very good, by the way. I was very impressed by him. But, you had a thing that showed up in rotation that was about the about second-round picks, like turning a first-rounder into a second-round pick. My question is to you guys is because the trend I'm seeing now in the NFL is, and especially guys like GMs like who I think Chris Ballard, who's I think a godsend of a GM right now, you turn a first-rounder, a low first-rounder into second-round picks. You don't pay the fifth-year option. You pay all the guys in the second-round pay rate, and then if they turn out to be great, fantastic. So in my opinion, we believe these Seahawks picks are going to be low first-round picks. My question is, do you guys believe we should be trading those picks and turning them to multiple second-round picks and getting better value? So that's my question for you guys, and I want to hear it. See ya.
Awesome. Thanks so much for the call, brother. All right. So first off, he's saying, obviously with everything going on with the Marlins in MLB, he's not very optimistic that we're going to get a season, but he's thinking and looking at our first round picks, not necessarily just the Seahawks one, but just our first round picks in general. And he thinks, do you think we should be trading down and getting more picks? He brought up the idea of having more shots to kind of take on players. He also thought that, not paying that fifth-year option and just having the cheap second-round pick, for 4 years could be a really good option to do. What do you think Joe Douglas tries to do? Do you think he tries to go for the quantity or the quality when he goes into this draft? Matt, I'll throw it to you first.
It's really hard for me to answer that because I feel like it depends on how the board breaks and what the need is. I think we saw that he isn't afraid to move back if he thinks that he can manipulate the board in a way that he feels comfortable with and getting more picks in the process. But there are definitely, as of right now, some still pretty big needs for this team. Again, it kind of depends on what happens in free agency as well, what positions they're able to address and what the cap situation looks like. So while I can't necessarily say one way or the other for sure, I would just tend to think that it really depends on how the board breaks, what positions they're needing to look at, and stuff like that. But I wouldn't be shocked if he decided to move back. That's very much like Joe Douglas.
Green Bean, what about you?
Let me just ask. During that phone call, I was looking unstable, and I was looking at the video on YouTube, and I look really bad. Are you guys hearing me, or am I just?
I hear you, but you do look bad. It's probably your shitty Wi-Fi. No, it's okay. We're just glad to have you on, Green Bean. We can hear you.
Yeah. You can hear
as soon
me?
as I say that, now we can't hear him. No, you're good. We're catching it. We get enough of it where we're making, sense.
I'm sorry. I'll be in Denver next week. It's going to be a whole different thing. It's going to be a whole different thing. I promise.
I love Denver.
Yeah, really nice. It's great. It's a great place, man, and I can't wait to be there. I'm going to be in the city, so I'll have internet. But anyway, I think just like Matt said, the good news is Joe Douglas has shown that he is fearless with, number one, trading picks for players. Number two, trading players for, obviously trading players for picks, trading back. This guy, he's just going to look and see exactly what the board tells him to do. But I think the good news is that having this many picks allows him real flexibility. Look what he did with limited picks this year. I mean, he even got our six back, in 2021 from the Patriots for the Demaryius Thomas. He basically rented him for free for a year, which is excellent, man. It's a 6th-round pick, and you don't want to get too crazy about it, but it shows his ability to work things. And I think him having this much ammunition creates a scenario that we have a lot of flexibility. I'm psyched. I'd rather watch the season first, though.
Yeah, I think all of us could agree on that. I think for me, just sort of going into this draft, I know I would like to trade back and accumulate more picks, but if you have the 2 firsts, you have the 2nd, you have the 2 thirds, your 4th, 2 fifths, and you have so many picks that you could kind of look at. I think it's going to be hard for teams to trade down in this draft. I think you're not going to get value out of it. Let's say you're trading your 1st-round pick. You're probably going to get maybe another team's 2nd-round pick and then maybe a pick the following year. But I don't think you'll get the nice return on picks that you might otherwise see on a normal draft, just because of the weird circumstances I think we're going to have to operate under. So if I had to guess, I think we'll sit pat with our picks. I think we're going to sit pat. I think that's what's going to wind up happening this year. I don't think we're going to see too much movement from teams in general. I don't think it's necessarily just a Jets thing here. All right, let's jump over to the phone lines. Get your questions in. We got about 12 minutes left before we call it a night, so we'll try to get through maybe another call or two. Remember, keep your questions short, because those guys are not going to be able to hear you, and I got to try and rattle this off to them afterwards. So let's see where we go. And don't forget to tune in next week. We're going to be doing this every week, 8 o'clock to 10 o'clock moving forward. So we're going to have a pretty good time for you guys week in and week out. All right. Welcome to Talkin' Jets. What's on your mind, brother?
Hey, how's it going there? I was just curious, a lot of these teams are set up, the good teams in the league are really salary cap strapped going into the next 2 years. Look at the Eagles, the Cowboys, Seattle, San Francisco. Between our draft capital and the potential salary cap drop in the next year to 2 years, I don't know if it's just going to all be contained in 2021 or if it goes into 2022. Do you see that as a potential opportunity for us to kind of leapfrog if we could lose some dead cap space and maybe some of these expiring contracts where maybe we're not looking at 3 or 4 years to be real contenders here just because these other teams have to restructure so much?
Ooh, that is a really good question. That's one of my more favorite questions that we've got, actually. So he was saying because of the salary cap likely dropping and a lot of the top teams in the leagues, you look at the Eagles, the Saints, the Chiefs, the Texans, the Vikings, maybe the Bears if they get a quarterback. But you look at the salary cap, if it drops down to 175, you're talking about a $25 million like flip. So basically, Vikings, Bears, Steelers, Texans, Chiefs, Falcons, Saints, and Eagles all don't have cap space. And the Eagles are like $54 million over the $215 million projected cap. So like right now the Jets are sitting at about $56 million. So you're probably looking at about $20 million or so next year without any cap rollover from this season. So do you guys think that the Jets could really leapfrog some of the teams that are ahead of us right now because we don't have to make the cuts that other teams might have to make, and we might be able to scoop up some talent from teams that have to make cuts just to get under the cap? Matt, I'll kick it to you first.
That's a really good question. I definitely think that's going to play a factor. When you look at, those teams, like you said, who are pressed up against the cap or even over it in some areas, it's going to be very difficult for them to become compliant. They're going to have to, terminate some contracts of guys that they don't necessarily look to terminate just because, they just can't possibly fit it underneath the cap. It's a really tricky situation for the NFL this year and probably the year after. But I would probably say, yeah, I think that's a realistic take when you look at the teams, who are going to have to move on from some pretty talented players. Yeah, absolutely.
Green Bean, what do you think about that whole situation?
What a bummer that idea is, huh?
Well, that's just it. And actually, this whole cap thing too. So over the cap is what I'm kind of basing this off of. They say the base salary cap is $215 million. So even the cap space that is right here, it's really another, 25 would be the 175 plus 15. So what's that, $40 million swing difference? So if we're actually talking even further up this list, and then when you factor in $8 million for rookies, you're talking basically from the 49ers down. So you're saying 49ers, Giants, Rams, Lions, Panthers, Bills, Cowboys, Packers, Titans, Browns, Raiders, Vikings, Bears, Steelers, Texans, Chiefs, Falcons, Saints, Eagles. It would have been easier going the other direction. It's like there's a ton of teams that are going to have to try and squeak under the cap. So it's fascinating. But sorry, Green Bean, I didn't mean to cut you off.
Yeah, no, it's really, I wonder if the NFL is going to give teams like the ability to restructure guys and defer things, or they have to do something. They can't just say, oh yeah, by the way, 40 million less, all you guys got to be cut. And then already going down to 80 players. It's interesting. I'd love to see some of these guys cut and us be the guys to scoop them up. But it's scary. And I think it feels like the wrong way to do things, doesn't it? It feels like, I don't know, it feels dirty to me.
It does. It feels like it's almost like when someone is forced to sell a house and you're trying to like almost benefit from that situation where you're like, oh well, hey, I'll buy that car from you because you're strapped for cash and now we benefit from it. Like that, it seems skeevy that way, but at the same time, like we took care of our P's and Q's. We put ourselves in a good salary cap situation. So you guys were not prepared for a global pandemic. I don't know what to tell you. All right, guys, let's try to get to one more phone call. Joe Douglas is, in Joe we trust. That has been like the moniker for like the entirety of this offseason. And we got a phone call on the line now. So let's see who we got on the line.
Call from
Wayne from Staten.
To accept, press 1.
Wayne from Staten Island. What's up, dude? Welcome to the cockpit. Oh, not the cockpit. Talking Jets. Oh, I'm on the wrong day.
Hey, what's up, guys? Yeah, I just want to tell you I love all your guys' content and whatever you bring to the Jets fans, because Lord knows we need it in this time we're in.
Oh, I'm glad you guys are enjoying it. And yeah, seriously, if you guys have not subbed up to Matt and Green Bean, seriously, sub up to them. Their links are in the description down below. They are some fantastic creators. And I will plug Green Beans. If you guys have not checked out Green Beans, Well, Green Bean has this one video that he made just before the draft where he was the GM and he was calling. Fantastic. If you haven't watched it, it aged well, but just like go watch it. It's pretty funny. Sorry, I don't want to sidetrack things, but what's on your mind, brother?
Well, definitely, guys. For 10 years, right, I've been a Jets fan. I've probably been a Jets fan all the time, but I was focused on Jets. Like, that is my life. But the question I want to ask, do you really believe that the team is all in on Sam Darnold? I know he is, because when we look at going through Geno Smith, Hackenberg. Wow, what a disaster that was. Do you believe at the end, like, they all invested on Sam Darnold? That has he proven to you with the flashness of greatness that he shows at times that he is our quarterback? And another thing, I just want to say I'm all on the bandwagon with Matt with Fire Gase, but I got to admit, with the season that we had with, I believe, man, that like with that season we had, I don't even think Jesus could have resurrected what Gase had went through. So I'm starting to change my tune now. Like, if he could do a 7-9 with that atrocious line that we had, I mean, I got to give him another opportunity, especially when all these picks went with McCagnon. So I don't know. You let me know and what you think, what you guys think.
Awesome. Good stuff, and thanks for the call. So what he's asking or kind of talking about is, do you believe the entire team is behind Sam Darnold? Do you think there's any kind of thought process like, I don't know if he's the guy? Like, kind of like where we saw with Geno Smith, you saw with Mark Sanchez. Hackenberg obviously never really got the shot. My gut is telling me we have guys coming to the Jets because they see the promise of Sam Darnold. That's what I see. When I watch Sam, I look at it and I just say, wow, like this guy, he's got it. And it's hard for me to try and justify because I'm mainly kind of a stats-driven guy, and there's not enough to back up Sam right now. So I understand where some people or fans might be skeptical, but I think the team is 100% behind him. I think if you were to put Sam in Baltimore, in Cleveland, in Buffalo, any of these other teams, I think Sam really shows just how good he is and why he should have been the number 1 overall pick that year. Yeah, I'm all in on Sam. I think the team is all in on Sam. I think only the fans might have a little bit of skepticism there. Matt, what do you think about that?
You hit it on the head with everything you just said there. For the same reasons that I believe in him is just the flashes that you see. You didn't see that from Geno Smith. You didn't see that from Mark Sanchez. Yes, they were a much more successful team in Mark Sanchez's era, but he did not play at the same level that Sam did the last 2 years for sure. And you're right. If he was on Cleveland, if he was on Buffalo, if he was on the Ravens, he would be the consensus best quarterback from that draft class. When you look at what the Jets have done versus those 3 teams who also took quarterbacks in the first round, we're just going to forget about Josh Rosen for a second. They have done such a better job of building around those guys. I love to bash Josh Allen as much as the next guy. But Buffalo has done a great job adding to the offensive line, adding to the wide receiver group, adding to the running back room. And you look at Cleveland, they traded for Odell, for God's sakes. They had Jarvis Landry in the room. And the Ravens, they reshaped their entire offense last year for Lamar Jackson. The Jets are really lacking. They're making up ground now with Joe Douglas, but it's going to take a little bit. But in my long-winded answer, yes, I believe in Sam Darnold. And I think most players in the league do as well. I think they see the flashes of talent from him.
Green Bean, how are you feeling on this topic?
100%, but I'll add even another wrinkle. Who else is there to have the team split? Luke Falk, David Fales, even Joe Flacco.
Joe Flacco?
I know, you know what I mean? But he's injured. He's not even going to be ready for the first part of the season. So I agree with everything both of you guys just said sincerely. I think Sam, number 1, he's had a raw deal so far. Number 2, he's been the consummate pro. He's way more mature than his age would allow you to think he is. I mean, look at Jamal Adams versus Sam Darnold, man. They're polar opposites. Sam Darnold is taking the high road, saying the right things, very mature, working his ass off, all those kinds of things. But even on top of that, who else are you going to support in the locker room but Sam Darnold? But an interesting thing, Kelvin Beachum just signed with the Cardinals. I'm sure everybody watching right now saw what he said. He said, I just want to let you guys know that kid's the real deal over there. So about Sam Darnold. So, that means something to me, man. He went and signed with another team and said, he didn't have to say that. Why would he say that? I just want you to know Sam Darnold is the real deal. That's who we really have. And now that Joe Douglas is in town and understands that, you don't take a defensive tackle after trading 4 picks to move up to grab a quarterback. It just doesn't make any sense. So now we have Joe Douglas. We're about to see what it looks like when you support your quarterback.
Yeah, and I think what for the fans that are questioning Sam Darnold right now, this is what I want you to do, and I think it's what all Jet fans should want to have happen. We should be supporting Sam Darnold in every sort of position like wide receivers, offensive linemen, any kind of help we can get this guy, because I want to roll with him through his 5 years. If we have to franchise tag him because we're not sure, I'm okay with that. But I want to just surround him with as much talent as possible, because if we decide to pull the plug, now this roster is built to nurture a quarterback, and then you can trade all your picks to go get your next quarterback. Like there's no downside to supporting Sam right now, even if you are a Sam Darnold, maybe not denier, but a skeptic. I think that's probably, what I would do. All right, guys, it looks like we are at our 10 o'clock time frame, so I will go around the panel one last time. Matt, any last words for the fans out there?
Yes. So starting right now is the wild card game for what if Adam Gase wasn't the head coach. So watch me see if I could beat the Tennessee Titans in the wild card game over on my channel.
I love it. Green Bean, any last words for the people out there?
I just wrote a 300-foot coaster, Orion. If any get a chance to go out there, it rocks. I'm just happy to be here, and I apologize. I apologize once again for how shitty I look. I had no idea. I was really surprised. I thought I was just
it's all right
over here. I thought everything was great.
It's almost like you had the whole the standstill from the draft. People didn't even realize you weren't here. It was great. We had comments during that entire draft stream of like, Green Bean looks great. Oh, I can't believe this. And it was funny. And then we pulled you onto the phone call one of the times. We know you'll get back there. We'll get you back there. We want to see the high quality threads in the beard, like each strand. That's what I'm looking forward to these next few weeks. Whew. Look at that man right there. Guys, this is Jets Talk, the Talkin' Jets panel. We're signing off. We'll be back here next week, 8 o'clock to 10 o'clock. We'll see you guys there. Jets.